Hey everybody, if you're considering going fully electric for your next vehicle but aren't quite ready to take the full plunge into a fully electric model, I've got two of the newest plug-in hybrid compact luxury SUVs for you guys to compare. On my right, the brand new 2023 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring, and on my left, the 2023 Lexus NX 450h Plus. So if you guys have roughly $60,000 to spend on a new electrified small luxury SUV, which one of these two is actually the better buy? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we get started with the review, I want to first apologize for the state of my voice. I'm kind of getting over a cold, so kind of bear with me because the show must go on. But let's go ahead and talk about these two vehicles. Both Lexus and Lincoln entered the compact luxury space in 2015. Lincoln started out as the MKC. It eventually became the Corsair in 2020. And then Lexus gave us an all-new version of the NX in 2022. This is now in its second generation. And when it comes to the exterior styling, obviously these two vehicles couldn't look any more different. Both bear their brand's current design language. You can see Lincoln gave the Corsair a pretty nice refresh for 2023 that includes a larger grille, this kind of interesting pattern in the grille where these little metallic dots are supposed to resemble the Lincoln Star logo. The Lincoln Star logo itself does not illuminate like you might find on some bigger Lincolns, but it is blue accented to show that this is the hybrid model. You can see all Corsairs come standard with full LED headlights, LED low and high beams, LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals down here. No fog lights on this vehicle, and then you can see this has a kind of a resculpted front bumper. I don't really love this chrome line that goes across the front bumper. I think it could have been better without it. Keep in mind, Lincoln offers a jet black appearance package where you can black out all the chrome. It's not available, however, on the plug-in hybrid model. Keep in mind, this is the Grand Touring, which means we have the plug-in hybrid powertrain. In contrast, the Lexus here, this is the NX 450h Plus, which means the Plus stands for plug-in hybrid, and it also has a 4-cylinder gas engine with 3 electric motors. The Lexus, of course, has its own unique design language here. This model comes standard with full LED headlights. This particular one here has the optional triple beam LED headlights where it has 3 individual LEDs, and you also have the LED daytime running light, turn signal. The Lexus, however, fights back with LED fog lights down here. I'm really happy to see Lexus including that. Keep in mind, this model here is missing the F Sport appearance package for an extra $1,200. It'll essentially black out the grille and then change out this chain link fence design for like a mesh finish where it has intricate L's in the actual grille itself. Overall, it's a very aggressive looking design. Lexus has been kind of modifying their spindle grille, however, to look more like a spindle body grille. This has, as you can see, the old interpretation of that. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys prefer. For me personally, I think I prefer the look of the Lexus. It's just a little bit more sporty and a little bit more youthful. Looking at both of these vehicles from the side profile, you can really tell that they are exactly direct rivals because both of these cars are roughly around the same size. Let me first start off with the Lincoln. This model here is around 181.4 inches long. It's actually around 2 inches shorter in the overall length versus the NX. Its wheelbase is around 106.7 inches. That's about an inch longer versus the Lexus. The Lincoln is also about an inch wider, but this vehicle is technically lower compared to the Lexus, which you can clearly see from the side profile. Now, a couple of other interesting styling details. Lincoln decided to go with kind of a more squared off look. This vehicle actually looks bigger when you look at it in person versus actually looking at the dimensions on paper. There's a couple of unique styling elements here. Of course, you have this kind of Corsair badging here that's, lets you know what model this is. You have power folding mirrors, which are black painted, integrated turn signals. This model here also has a panoramic sunroof, so it kind of gives it kind of like a black roof design, or two-tone roof design. A panel roof, sadly, is not available on the Lexus NX plug-in hybrid. And then in terms of the charge port door, that's actually located on the driver's side on the fender. This vehicle here will take roughly around 4 hours to charge on a level 2 or around 12 hours to charge overnight because this vehicle has a slower onboard charger when you have it connected to a level 2. Now, in terms of the wheels, this car has a 20-inch wheel, which is optional. A 19-inch wheel is going to be standard. This car is riding on a 245 by 45 R20-inch Continental cross-contact all-season tire. In terms of the suspension, this car also has an adaptive fixed steel spring suspension, so no adaptive air dampers, but you do at least have adaptive steel springs. And Lincoln doesn't quote the ground clearance, but I suspect it's right around 7 inches. Now, in contrast, the Lexus is around 183.5 inches long. Like I said earlier, it's 2 inches longer. It's also around 1.6 inches taller, so it should give you theoretically more headroom. This has more of a sportier, kind of more traditional SUV design to it, as opposed opposed to the boxier shape of this vehicle, although what the Lexus is shorter in is the wheelbase. And then unlike the Lincoln, you can see Lexus doesn't paint the fender trim here or the wheel arches. However, if you guys go for the F Sport appearance package, this will paint the wheel arches or the wheel arches and then the side sills, so you can kind of get that full paint finish look if you prefer. Lexus also comes standard with the 20-inch wheels. That's technically optional on the Lincoln, but the tires on this model are a little bit narrower. They're 235 by 50 are 20-inch Bridgestone Alenza run flat tires. So it's an all-season tire, but this is technically a run flat. If you guys want the adaptive dampers, you can get it. However, you have to go for the F Sport handling package. This model here without it does not have the adaptive dampers, so it could affect the ride quality, where the Lincoln has that nice feature. Now, before we start talking about the rear end styling of these two vehicles, Lexus puts their charge port door over here on the rear passenger side. The Lexus technically has a faster onboard charger. This here will take around 2.5 hours to charge on a level 2 or around 10 hours overnight on a level 1, in contrast to the 4 hours for the Lincoln. So talking about the styling of these vehicles, I mean, honestly, both vehicles are good looking in their own way. Me personally, I do like the look of the Lexus. What's interesting, however, to me is both vehicle brands are actually spelling out their name at the rear of the vehicle. You can see Lexus started just spelling out Lexus at the rear, starting with this generation NX about 2 years ago. And then Lincoln, you can see, spells out their brand at the back instead of using the Lincoln Star logo. They both kind of have a taillight design that incorporates a full LED light bar. You can see Lincoln has it, and Lexus also started introducing it, of course, on the new generation NX. You also have full LED taillights at the back. Lexus also puts a little bit more badging back here, NX 450h Plus. That's the only way you can tell at the rear that this is a plug-in hybrid, is the badging. As in contrast, however, Lincoln is very minimalistic here. I was surprised to see it only has Lincoln. There's no Corsair badge back here. There's no plug-in hybrid badge, so they're both kind of fly underneath the radar. However, the Lincoln gets points at the rear because the company still uses a dual chrome exhaust outlet system, which I think looks really good. It's a little bit more traditional, still very sporty looking. Lexus, however, you can see hides the exhaust underneath the rear, and you can see the rear bumper back here is not fully painted, unlike the Lincoln, where you have a little bit more painted accents. However, I should notate that if you get the F Sport package, again, a lot of this black plastic, which is unpainted, will end up being painted, which is a nice touch if you guys are looking for that full paint finish. Now, in terms of the cargo space, this is where the Lincoln has a little bit more space thanks to its more squared off body. Now, in terms of the cargo capacity, both of these technically are 2-row vehicles. The Lincoln offers just under 27 cubic feet of space back here. Fold down the second row seats, it'll expand it out to just over 55 cubic feet of space. In contrast, the Lexus has a little bit less, around just under 23 cubic feet of space. Fold down the second row seats, it expands it out to just under 47 cubic feet of space. So the more sleeker shape of the Lexus does eat into the cargo capacity. You should also notate that both of these models would have a little bit more space if they weren't the plug-in hybrid models. The battery pack does eat up a little bit of the cargo space. Technically, the Lincoln eats up around 2 to 3 cubic feet compared to the Lexus, which is more of a negligible difference. Now, moving on to the interiors, let's go ahead and start with the Lincoln Corsair. You can see my tester has this really nice pristine white exterior with this kind of ebony cashew two-tone interior. You can see this is a genuine leather interior. This is their upgraded interior with the 24-way perfect position front seats, which means they adjust in 24 different ways. They are heated and ventilated. You have 3-person memory on the driver's side, and this seat also features a massage feature. So you can't even get a massaging seat in the Lexus NX. So it really shows you just how serious Lincoln is about delivering luxury and luxury kind of going with the best from Europe. Now, in terms of the door panel materials, you can see it's got a soft touch injection molded plastic, leather padding over here where your elbows would rest. You have one touch all four for both of the windows, or for all 4 windows, with a chrome accented door handle. A lot of the switch gear in here certainly feels nice, but you can kind of tell it comes from the Ford family. You can see down here it's a hard touch plastic. And then I don't particularly love this area here. I would have preferred if Lincoln put like a wood or a metal accent here. You have chrome accented door handles, and then you also have has the company's 14-speaker Revel sound system, which is definitely a nice sounding stereo if you guys prefer, you know, a really good sounding audio. Now, getting inside this vehicle, you can see it has that traditional SUV step-in height. Close the door, it has a nice solid sounding thunk, which again gives you that impression of quality. Now, here's the key fob for the vehicle. You can see it is the traditional Lincoln key, although this is technically a Ford key with a Lincoln logo on the back. You can also use your phone as a key if you prefer. This also has remote start on the fob itself. Push that button here, that'll turn on all the electronics. Remember, this is a plug-in hybrid, so you just hear the Lincoln symphonic chime, which is unique to this vehicle compared to other Ford vehicles, for example. And then the Lincoln does fight back, of course, with a 12.3-inch fully digital cluster over here, which the Lexus, as you guys will see in a bit, Doesn't have a full digital display. And then Lincoln also upgraded the infotainment system. This is now a 13.2-inch touchscreen, which is a nice upgrade versus the 8-inch touchscreen that you found on the pre-refresh model. This also includes Lincoln's Sync 3, Ford Sync 3, or Sync 4, I'm sorry. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and built-in Amazon Alexa. So again, this is all pretty nice, although I will say the software behind Lincoln's Sync 4 is a little bit on the slow and laggy side. The graphics look good, however, but sometimes what I noticed when I was trying to cycle between different menus, it was a little bit slow to react, a little bit slow to respond. You can see there's the Apple CarPlay, which as you can see, takes a second for it to load up. It is nice how it takes up the full screen. You can also push that button here. It'll give you a 2-screen layout, but you can see it's just a little bit laggy when it starts to go between different sources. I think Ford definitely could give this vehicle a kind of an upgrade in terms of the software computing power. Now your climate control is always going to be down here at the lower end. The ventilated seats in this car, I will say, work extremely well. They're very cold, which I love. The climate control also is really nice. If you push this button here, that brings up the massage function. You can see, again, pushing that, it takes a second for it to load up. You can see there's the massage. It offers all these different types of massages with 3 different intensities, and the massage works continuously until I turn it off. So that's definitely a nice touch. You can't even get that on the Lexus. Now, in terms of materials, leather right here, you have aluminum accented trim. No wood, surprisingly, on this model. There is some ambient interior lighting, which it looks pretty nice. And then you can see here, you have their piano key style transmission selector. So you can see, just push that button, it goes into reverse with your full 360 camera with trajectory, parking sensors, but no kind of view where you can scroll around the vehicle. You have your volume knob over here, some more buttons. I don't love the piano black here. It just kind of shows dust and scratches easily. And then you can see down here, the wireless phone charging pad holds my 14 Pro Max really nicely, and it also works. That's the one thing about the Lexus wireless charger. It never really works. Because you close this up, there's a nice little lid. This is kind of a nice cleaned up area. You have leather covering this area here where your knees may rest along here. And then your drive mode selector is here. This vehicle, you can see, offers like 4 different drive modes plus 2 more, Preserve EV and a Pure EV, which is unique to the Grand Touring version. Now, electronic parking brake, padded center console here, and then you can see the seats. I found the seats to be comfortable once I found an actual position, but this driver's seat here was just really creaky, and it also wiggled when I would turn in the direction I was turning, so it was kind of loose. And then there's also some squeaks and rattles in the interior, which I didn't love in my week's worth of testing, so that's something to consider. You can see, open up the glove box, it's a bin style, it's damped in line with felt. And then unlike the Lexus, you can see Lincoln offers a huge panoramic sunroof, which you can also open up, which is nice. You can get this in the Lexus, but you have to step down from the plug-in hybrid model. Lincoln does not offer a digital camera rearview mirror like you can get in the Lexus. But let me go ahead and hop into the back seat of this car because I want to show you guys really quick the space back here. And this is where the Lincoln also has an advantage, just under 37 inches of legroom back here. And you also have a seat that reclines and slides forward and back. So that's something that you can't do in the Lexus. The Lexus does recline, but not to the same degree that Lincoln has with the back seat of the Corsair. Getting back here, you can see legroom space is pretty good. I'm 5'7" and I can find good headroom space, or good legroom foot space underneath here. You can see there's the seat. It slides forward and back, which is nice. You have same soft touch materials back here with more leather where your elbows would rest. You have rear seat air vents, heated rear seats, and then 4 USB-C jacks total back here, which is nice. You have 2 storage cubbies, and then you also have an armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. So if you need a vehicle with a more versatile back seat, this is where the Lincoln has a slight advantage, although the Lexus's rear seat trails it in terms of space, but just by a little bit. So moving on to the interior of the Lexus, you can see the company decided to go with a more bolder red interior. This is called Rioja Red, and this is technically a faux leather material. They call it Nulux leather, which is again a fake leather material that's more, that's animal free. It's vegan. This leather actually does feel really nice, however, this fake leather. It feels like real leather. It's really soft and comfortable. These seats adjust in 12 different ways, and you also get 3-person memory. These are also heated and ventilated. I will say that the ventilation works better on the Lincoln, especially on this hotter summer day. Lexus doesn't offer massaging seats, but you do have some pretty nice materials as well. You can see it's got a soft touch injection molded plastic. You have some nice black wood trim, genuine wood. And then if we had the Mark Levinson audio option, you'd have an additional speaker here. Without it, you just have the 10-speaker Lexus premium sound system, which also sounds good, but I suspect you audiophiles out there are going to prefer the Revel audio system in the Lincoln a little bit more. You can see the Lexus has nice materials here where your elbows would rest, and then you also have these digital latch door handles on the Lexus. So unlike the conventional latches on the Lincoln, this is just an electronic release, which you push there, or you can also pull that in case the power fails, which is a nice little fail-safe. But overall, you can see the Lexus's interior makes a great first impression as well. Now, stepping inside, you can see it has the same kind of easier step-in height, and then as I get in and shut the door, The door sounds a little bit more solid in the Lexus. They both sound good, but I think it's a bit more satisfying thunk in this vehicle. You can see the start-stop button is in a better position for this vehicle because it doesn't get lost behind the steering wheel or at the lower portion of the dash like it is on the Lincoln. And you can see the Lexus also has a unique chime, and it also has some really great tech features as well. Now, in terms of the screen displacement, the Lexus wins here with a 14-inch display. That's not standard, of course. Lincoln gives you the 13.2 inches standard. Lexus gives you an 8 inches standard, or a 9.8 inches standard, so basically a 10-inch, while the 14-inch is optional. You can see there's your wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It just connected a lot quicker versus in the Lincoln when I first got it and started the vehicle. However, for some reason right now it decided to disconnect, so not entirely sure why that happened. Oh, there it goes, now it reconnected. So sometimes these softwares can be a little bit glitchy, but you can see just how fast it is to reconnect. I like how quick and snappy it is. The graphics look good. Just like the Lincoln, you have your audio controls or your climate controls that are kind of stuck at the bottom of the screen all the time. You have heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, which is also on the Lincoln. The Lexus also has a power tilt telescoping steering wheel, which is also on the Lincoln, which is a nice feature to have. This vehicle also comes with paddle shifters. I prefer the leather on the Lexus. It feels a little bit more high quality. It feels a little bit more smooth. I like the stitching feel as well, although I appreciate the two-tone look that you get on the Lincoln. What I don't appreciate, however, is this screen here. This is a 7-inch LCD display. It's not a full 12-inch display like you might find in the Lincoln or some Toyota products, for example. I suspect Lexus will be replacing this at some point. The Lexus also gives you a heads-up display, which is what the Lincoln also gives you, and then you also have soft-touch injection molded materials here on the upper part of the dash. So there's no actual stitching on the dash. There is actual stitching down here on the center console. This is where I would rest my knee for you taller folks out there, so you might definitely appreciate that. You have dual zone climate, like I said earlier. This is the embedded GPS system. This car also has ambient interior lighting, although I will say that I think the Lincoln's looks a little bit nicer compared to this model, so kind of just keep that in mind. Down here you can see wireless phone charging pad, although I will say that I like how you can slide that open to reveal storage. The wireless phone charging pad never works in this car, which it does work in the Lincoln, so I'm not entirely sure. The supplier that Lexus and Toyota is using, you have 2 USB-C charging ports here. Your shifter is over here. It's an electronic shifter. I prefer this over the push-button shifter that you get in the Lincoln. You can see you push it over and go into the reverse there. You have a full 360 camera with similar graphics and resolution to the Lincoln. You also have parking sensors and trajectory. Lexus also offers an auto park feature. This car is missing that option. You get that on the Lincoln, of course. And then down here you can see, instead of piano black, you have kind of like a gray plastic, although there is piano black over here, which again shows fingerprints and smudges and scratches really easily, which I don't like. Nice padded center console here. You can see, open that up. You have 2 different ways to open this up, which is kind of nice. The seats, I actually prefer them in the Lexus. That's kind of a case where the Lincoln, I think, has too many adjustments. This is easy to get a comfortable position, and once you're sitting in these seats, they feel comfortable, supportive, and whatnot. You can see the glove box is damped. It's a bin style. It's a little bit larger versus in the Lincoln. This model here is missing it, but you can get a digital camera rearview mirror, and then you can see here just a standard sunroof. Sadly, the panel roof is not available on this car like you can find on the lower trims or the different engines of the NX. But let me go ahead and show you guys the back seat, because the rear seat of the NX is still relatively usable, but it isn't quite as big as the Lincoln. You have just over 36 inches of legroom, so the Lincoln offers almost an inch more legroom back here. You can see the rear seat does fold down, and it does give you a slight recline feature. You can see when you fold it down, it'll expand the cargo capacity, but you don't have the ability to slide the seats forward and back. Materials back here are soft touch injection molded plastic, just like the front, padded where you'd rest your elbow. And then when you get back here, you can see there's actually a pretty good amount of space. So even though this car has an inch less legroom, for somebody my height, I think I can still fit in here really nicely. You have rear seat air vents, you have 2 USB-C charging ports, and then a power outlet over here. The Lincoln technically had 4. No heated rear seats. It's available, but not on this trim. Again, Lexus is kind of skimping on the trim, on the features they put in this model. And you can see, fold that down, it gives you 2 cup holders and a nice armrest. But overall, if you need a little bit more backseat space, the Lincoln is going to give that to you, but this car is definitely not far behind. They're actually pretty similar in the real world. Now, for how different these two vehicles look on the outside, under the hood, they actually appear very similar, because both vehicles will have a variation of a 4-cylinder powered by electric motors and a larger battery capacity. Let me first start off with the Lincoln here, because this car comes with Ford's 2.5-liter naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder paired up with 2 electric motors. There's 1 electric motor here at the front, a separate electric motor at the rear, giving this vehicle an electronic all-wheel drive system. The gas engine on its own delivers delivers 163 horsepower and 155 pound-feet of torque. The electric motor adds around 129 more horsepower at the front, another 67 horsepower at the rear. When you combine everything, when you factor in the drivetrain loss and the transmission loss, Lincoln says you get around 266 horsepower combined. They don't quote a torque figure combined, which is the same thing with Lexus. It all goes out through an electronic CVT, and this vehicle has a 14.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack, which Lincoln says is good for up to 28 miles of all-electric range, and you should expect to get around 33 mpg when you run it out of battery juice and you drive it like a regular hybrid. This vehicle does have a really small 11-gallon gas tank, which means you get around 350 miles of range between fill-ups, which, as you guys will hear later, the Lexus is far better. However, in terms of performance, Lincoln quotes 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds. It has a top speed of around 121 miles an hour, and this vehicle actually is the one that'll tow more. Lincoln says this model here, properly equipped, will tow up to 3,000 pounds, and as it sits, it weighs in at just over 4,500 pounds. Now, in contrast to the Lincoln, the Lexus retaliates, of course, with a similar powertrain. This here has a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder. Lexus says on its own it delivers around 170-ish horsepower. It's augmented, of course, by 3 electric motors. So the front motor, there's actually 2 electric motors at the front, delivering around 179 horsepower. And then at the rear, you have a separate E-axle delivering around 54 horsepower. Combined output, Lexus says, is 304. So this is almost 40 more horsepower versus what you get in the Lincoln. And this vehicle also has a larger battery pack. It's an 18.1 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which Lexus says is good for up to 37 miles of electric-only range. So that's almost 10 more miles of EV-only range, and you get almost 40 more horsepower. Of course, because of the increased performance, Lexus says this will do 0 to 60 in around 5.7 seconds. It'll reach top speed of around 124 miles an hour, and you can still tow with this vehicle, but not quite as much as the Lincoln. This here will tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds. It weighs in at just over 4,400 pounds, so this is around 100 pounds lighter versus the Corsair Grand Touring. All right, so now that we're finally behind the wheel of both the Lincoln and the Lexus, I'm going to start off in the Lincoln because technically this car came out first before the Lexus in the compact luxury plug-in hybrid space. And we're starting off, of course, in the pure EV mode. This is where the car is going to function primarily as an electric vehicle first. It's going to deplete the battery, although unlike the Lexus, you'll notice if you put your foot down a little bit too hard, it's going to actually wake up the gas engine, which to me, I would prefer that it not do that. When you drive it in this mode here, just put your foot down. It has around 129 horsepower in EV mode alone, and it provides enough power for most. Now, I did test the 0 to 60 in just electric only mode. It did it in around 12.5 seconds, which is pretty slow. If you switch it to its Excite mode here, which let me go ahead and do that, which there's several different drive modes. Excite is their sport mode here. It will actually wake the engine up. If you put your foot down, you can feel it's a lot faster. You hear the engine, of course, come on. That's where it'll basically cut the 0 to 60 time in half to 6.3 seconds, which is still pretty fast, but not quite as fast as the Lexus. This vehicle doesn't offer any kind of one-pedal driving feature, which I would have liked to see Lincoln kind of offer that. But in terms of the ride quality, this vehicle has adaptive dampers. It rides pretty nice. In Excite mode here, it's definitely on the firmer end. If you switch it over to normal, you should feel it kind of switch out and give you a little bit of a softer ride. The 20-inch wheels are definitely going to affect the ride quality a little bit. Visibility is also pretty good out of this car. What is really nice, however, is I'm sitting here getting a massage, and you also have Lincoln's Active Glide 1.2, which is actually a hands-free driving tech out on the highway, which Lexus currently doesn't offer in the NX. In terms of real-world range, I got, again, around 28 to 30 miles of electric-only range, which is good, but you'll soon discover that you'll find a little bit more range in the Lexus because of its bigger battery pack and stronger electric motor. And really, this interior is pretty easy to see out of, but my biggest gripe with the interior is the fact that we have some squeaks and rattles coming from this interior that I was hearing in the sunroof, in the dash, and in the door panel. And my driver's seat also is a little bit loose. It wiggles when I'm, making turns whenever I'm cornering in this vehicle, which isn't a great thing. But overall, it's still a really nice, comfortable car. It has, again, I'll put my foot down here, all-wheel drive, electric only right now, and it has plenty of power around town. But let's go ahead and hop into the Lexus because I want to compare it in terms of day-to-day driving and similar road surfaces that I'm driving this vehicle in. So after just hopping out of the Corsair and driving the Lexus NX, it's interesting because both of these vehicles on paper seem very similar, but there's something about the Lexus when I drive this vehicle that gives me a sense that I'm driving something that's built a little bit better. There are Zero squeaks and rattles in this car, which is something I really appreciate. And I also love the way the seats feel. They're a fake leather material, but they feel a little bit more soft and supportive for me. But seats are always subjective, so try both seats out yourself to see which one you actually prefer. The other thing I noticed right away is just how much quicker the Lexus is, especially in electric only mode. What I love about this car is put it in sport mode, leave it in EV mode, put my foot down here, and this vehicle will stay completely in electric only, versus the Lincoln, if I push the pedal too hard, it wakes up the gas engine and then you have to deal with the noisiness of it. This car, however, with around 180 horsepower on its own from the EV portion, you can feel it gives you that electric only experience. It's instantaneous torque, although I will say that initially from a stop, the Lexus does feel like it's kind of dragging its feet a little bit. It's almost like Lexus tuned it to kind of not give you full power until you reach a certain speed, for example. They wanted to do that for smoothness. Now, the steering in this vehicle also is light. It's relatively quick, but the body feels a little bit sportier. Surprisingly, I wasn't expecting the Lexus to feel like the sportier driving vehicle, and this doesn't even have the F-Sport handling package, but it does, and that's kind of refreshing to see. Lexus hasn't been known for building sportier vehicles, but the company's been working hard at kind of trying to shed that librarian, boring car image problem that they have. Now I put my foot down here, you can feel it spins the tires out just like in the Lincoln. It's kind of hilarious actually. But again, this car will get to 60 in around 9.5 seconds in EV only mode. That's 3 seconds faster than the Lincoln. And then when you put it into its hybrid mode, which I'll do right now, you put it into auto EV or hybrid mode, for example, right here, put my foot down, this will wake up the gas engine, and then you'll get to 60 in around 5.5 seconds in this car. So almost a second faster again versus the Lincoln. It's a nice upgrade that I think most people are gonna like. And compared to the engine in the Lincoln, I actually noticed the Lexus's engine is a little bit louder in this car. I'm not entirely sure why. It may just be the fact that the Lincoln put a little bit more sound deadening materials, but most of the times you'll be driving this vehicle in electric only mode because this car does have much better electric only range. In my actual testing, I was able to get just over 40 miles of electric only range. So again, that's around 10 to 12 miles better versus the Lincoln. And this car, when you drive it in hybrid mode, will do around 36 miles to the gallon in hybrid mode. So again, better efficiency there in hybrid mode, which also translates to better real world range, around 500 miles of range on a full tank. So that's a really nice, upgrade that you're going to appreciate on those longer road trips. I also find this interior to be slightly quieter. The ride is a little bit better in this car. There's a little bit more control in the shock rebound. When you hit a bump, this car just feels like it absorbs it better versus the Lincoln, but it also, again, doesn't have any squeaks and rattles. In terms of visibility, I do think that the Lexus has pretty similar visibility. I mean, I think they're actually both the same, although I appreciate the fact that the Lexus is available with that digital camera rearview mirror, which you can't get in the Lincoln. But overall, when you drive the two back to back, personally for me, I find the driving experience to be a little bit better in this car, and it's mainly centered around the fact that the electric motor is stronger, so it has better electric only responses, and you also have better electric only range, and there are little to no squeaks and rattles in this interior as I drive the vehicle over similar road conditions. So if you guys are in the market for a new compact luxury SUV with a plug, your choices are kind of limited. There are technically only 4 options out there, well 5 if you count the new Alfa Romeo Tonale. However, the Lincoln Corsair and the Lexus NX represent kind of the newest offerings. I mean, of course, you could also consider the European offerings like the Volvo XC60 T8 Recharge and the Audi Q5 plug-in, which is the only model out of the 5 models that I mentioned, which I haven't had a chance to drive yet. But after spending some time driving both the 2023 Lincoln Corsair GT and of course the Lexus NX 450h Plus, it's pretty clear to me which one I prefer. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of both of these models. The Lincoln, let me start with this model, I think is still a really solid option. Compared to the Aviator Grand Touring, which I tested last year, this is a far better plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It has enough power to get you out of your own way in pure electric mode. I got around 28 miles of actual electric only range in my week's worth of testing, around 350-ish miles of total range with the gas engine had to kick in, which isn't great. That's because of the smaller fuel tank, so that's one of the cons. And in terms of the interior, this model here has a lot more upscale touches like the panoramic sunroof, the 24-way perfect position massaging seats, which is nice. And you can also get this vehicle with the Revel premium sound system. Those features are unavailable on the Lexus, which is frustrating because the Lexus NX does offer those features like a panoramic roof, although they don't offer massaging seats, but you can get it with their Mark Levinson sound system, but you can't get it on the plug-in hybrid, at least as of today. Lexus said that initially at launch they weren't going to offer those features. However, they're pushing into 2024. You still can't get those upscale touches on the plug-in hybrid version, and I'm not entirely sure why. That does, however, favor the Lexus when it comes to pricing at the top end, because this vehicle here, while it is, full of a lot of luxury and tech features, it is also pretty expensive at the higher ends. Now keep in mind, the Corsair GT starts at just under $54,000 compared to just over $59,000 for the Lexus. So technically the Lincoln is around $5,000 less expensive. However, when you start adding in the options, which are some options that you can't get on the Lexus, like for example, Lincoln's Active Glide, their Blue Cruise system, which is a hands-free driving tech, you can't get that on the Lexus just yet. This model here with that Reserve 3 upgrade package and the perfect position seats and the 20-inch wheels comes into just over $67,000. 67 grand makes this around $3,000 more expensive than this Lexus. Keep in mind that this model is missing the F-Sport handling package. You could theoretically build this up to be around $65,000, but this one here was around $63,000. So really you're looking at like a $4,000 price difference between the two models. And while if Lexus did offer features like the pano roof and the Mark Levinson stereo and the heated rear seats on this model, on this particular trim, it could push the price closer to the Lincoln territory. What held it back for me, and that's because of this particular test car, is the build quality issues. I mentioned earlier it had squeaks and rattles in the interior. The driver's seat felt like it was a little bit loose. Every time I turned, it would kind of shift and adjust in the direction that I was turning. So for those reasons alone, it kind of pushed me back toward the Lexus, but I also appreciate the fact that the Lexus has far better electric-only range. It feels quicker in its electric-only mode, and it also has much better total range. This vehicle here will do around 500 miles on a full tank versus the 350, and that's because this vehicle has a larger gas tank. So Lincoln could easily fix those issues here by putting a larger battery, putting a larger gas tank, addressing the build quality issues, and I would love to retest the two vehicles, but for me personally, if I had around $65,000 to spend, my money would go to the brand new 2023 Lexus NX 450h Plus. It just feels like a car that's better built. It has more comfortable seats. I personally like the design a little bit more, and then in terms of facts, this has a powerful electric motor and more electric-only range and more total range when you guys need to go on those longer road trips. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full comparison test between the brand new 2023 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring and the 2023 Lexus NX 450h Plus. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.